Hi there, sorry, didn't see you. I was just playing one of my favorite party pieces, which is, I'm sure you've heard it if you've ever been to a Jewish wedding or seen a Jewish wedding in a movie. It's called the Hava Nagila, and oh, wait, what does this have to do with Albeniz? Well, I'll explain, just give me a second. The Hava Nagila uses a very famous scale in Jewish music, which is sometimes just called the Jewish scale or the Freigisch scale. It's also called the Spanish Gypsy scale, or in jazz, the Phrygian dominant scale. It's got a lot of names. And this scale is also used in Arabic music. It's very closely related to the scale that's often called the Arabic scale. And they're both cousins of the famous Phrygian mode. What do all these scales have in common? Well, it's that they all start with a half step. But either way, a half step at the very beginning. And this separates them from Western major or minor scales, which always begin with a whole step. And I think they give this Phrygian scale a feeling to classical ears as if they're the dominant of a minor key. So what I mean by that would be, imagine if the Hava Nagila went something like this. Yeah, no, it doesn't sound quite right, does it? So the point is that scales like this really complicate our understanding of tonality. And Albeniz was, in particular, a master at mixing together all these different modes with a lot of skill and a lot of imagination. And but where do these modes come from? Well, that brings me to the next piece in Iberia, which is called El Puerto. El Puerto refers to the famous port town of Santa Maria on the Bay of Cadiz, which is on the Atlantic seaboard and is actually the place that Columbus launched his expedition to the New World from in 1492. Also, though, I think a reference to the whole of Spain. A port is a place where different cultures and different ideas can meet and come together. And Spain is itself kind of El Puerto. The word means also a doorway or gate. And Spain is really one of the points where Europe meets the rest of the world. And many different cultures coincide there and influence each other, sometimes living together peacefully, sometimes violently. And I think in El Puerto, Albeniz is really trying to capture some of these different cultures. And so El Puerto begins with the sounds of a Spanish guitar, and then you have a vocal melody that's heavily ornamented and arabesqued, but is still basically a diatonic melody. Then, as the piece progresses, we wander off into maybe a darker, more hidden part of the port town. And we begin to hear these stranger, older forms of Phrygian modes. A little Spanish history lesson. In the same year that Columbus sailed away on his ships for the New World from the town of Santa Maria, the Spanish crown completed the Catholic Reconquista of Spain. And the Moors and Jews, who had up to that point lived relatively peacefully side by side along with Catholics in Islamic Spain, were formally kicked out. And the ones that remained lived in terror of being discovered by the Inquisition. But some of them mingled with the gypsies, especially in the south, and they together created this form of music that's called flamenco. And these influences, which you can hear throughout Spanish music, they really contribute to that very specific flair of Spanish music. All these modes that I talked about, they're still there, they're still present. Arabic, in a lot of ways, left its mark on Spain, not just Spanish music, but also the Spanish language. You can hear that in all the words that begin with al, words like Almendra, where we get our word almond, Alcazar, meaning castle, the famous building in Granada, the Alhambra, and, oh, yeah, Albeniz, right. That should be a Moorish word, and what do we know? Actually, Albeniz always claimed that he was not a Spanish composer. Although he was in Barcelona, he claimed he was not a Catalan composer. But he would tell anyone who wanted to listen that he was, in fact, a Moor. Now, there's not a lot of evidence for this one way or another, but it's a really tantalizing and interesting point, I think. Anyway, enough talking for now. Join me next Friday for the next stop in our tour through Iberia, and in the meantime, here is El Puerto.